Welcome to this edition of Insights by Andy, and I'm really delighted today to be joined by Jerome. Jerome, maybe you could introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, Andy. My name is Jerome Turning. I'm the founder and CEO of Smart Recruiters. We're a talent acquisition suite. We power recruiting for thousands of large enterprises around the world and partner with SHL on many of those accounts. And so delighted to be here.
Fantastic. And you are a real expert on talent recruiting. You've been in the industry many years, and I'm sure have got a lot of opinions across a number of topics. But today I wanted to really focus in on internal recruiting or talent mobility within organizations, because the way of recruiting and filling positions has changed dramatically. The war for talent at the moment is really, really raging. So organizations are more increasingly looking internally for that talent than ever before. I mean, do you see that the same way as we're seeing it?
Yeah, it's very clear that we are living in unprecedented times in terms of hiring. The hiring volumes have just almost 5x in every organization, whether they're catching up on people that they have let go during the pandemic, whether they are actually their business is accelerating suddenly, or whether they're just dealing with the revolving door of the Great Resignation, as many people have changed their expectation, their work location, their behaviors. And so we're seeing at the moment, indeed, a very large liquidity, if you want it in this way. And I think it applies well to our topic of internal recruiting, because the absence of liquidity in the internal talent marketplace has been historically a real problem.
Yeah, no, totally. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because although organizations have talked about internal recruiting quite a lot, in this unprecedented time, it's actually quite challenging to ramp that up to a higher level. There's a number of issues that they're facing around, identifying the individuals, in particular those that are kind of not directly in their line of sight, is where can they look more broadly across their organization to fill positions? And that seems to be a real challenge for organizations.
Yeah, it clearly is. And I actually talk about it in my book, Hiring Success. And there's a whole chapter about internal recruiting. And the first part is remove the barriers. And I think if there's one thing that people can do right now is just remove the barriers to internal mobility. Just at the minimum, let it happen. And then try to think about what can you do to accelerate it. But at the minimum, let it happen. Can I apply to a job if I am in my job for less than a year? Of course I can. Do I need to inform my boss if I apply to a job internally? Of course not, right? I don't inform you if I apply to a competitor. Why would I do that internally? To remove the barriers and free the employees already to actually make it easier to find jobs internally than externally. This is a starting point, and many organizations, frankly, make it more difficult than it needs to be, but it's for historical reasons that are effectively hard to change.
No, I think that's right. And it's interesting because in the same way, organizations, when they're recruiting externally, are often going to passive candidates at the moment, not active candidates. The other side of that story really is, how do you identify the passive candidates who don't necessarily put their hand forward, but have got the skills and the ability to do the position, and have a way to get the insight around your people such that you can reach out to those individuals who may not have been considering a career move, but you may be able to bring something to them that can, obviously is very exciting for them. It enables them to develop their career, and it also shows that the organization cares and is identifying the talent and moving it around the organization in a very agile way.
Yeah, and I think this starts with a very, very simple change. Hunt. And what I mean by this is, if internal mobility is not managed by your recruiting department, then it's time to change it. Because internal mobility, internal candidates belong to recruiting. And now let your recruiters actually market jobs internally, contact people, and really let them hunt. And they will do a really good job at it, because that's what they do. If you're trying to say, no, internal mobility is managed by HR, we're going to help people develop their form of mobility, and recruiters, you only look externally, then what you end up effectively doing is pushing your employees out, right? So start by this, give internal mobility to your VP of talent acquisition. He or she will be really happy about it, and they'll actually start to drive real action.
I think that's a really, really great point, because they are part of the overall candidate pool, internal as well as external, to fill those positions. And like you say, they understand the position, they've hopefully got insight and the individual they're trying to bring into the position as well. So a fantastic point.
And they have the...
Go on, please.
I was going to say, and they have the technology and the processes and the skill set, right? If you think about, hey, let's build a talent marketplace with all our talent profiles and have a matching engine on top of it that could proactively identify the right talent so that we could contact them. Like, all of what I describe is table stakes standard technology for recruiters. But Absolutely. The issue is have they been allowed to use this internally? And so if you give internal mobility to the recruiters, you actually let them use their tech stack, their expertise, their processes, you immediately unlock value, because a talent marketplace, an internal talent marketplace, is frankly, a lot easier to manage than the external talent market.
Absolutely. Fantastic. I'm sure we can talk about the topic a lot more, Jerome. I really appreciate your time, and also we appreciate the partnership that we have with Smart Recruiters. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Andy.